What's up, sports fans? And I just have one burning question for all of you in this video. Do you enjoy the season of summer? Because I do. I love summer. And I know a lot of people love summer. Even those who complain about the heat. You know, those people who like wear the sunglasses, go in the shade, and they're like, whew, it's too hot to do anything sort of idea. Ironically, those are the ones who love going down south to the resorts where it's even hotter because you're closer to the equator. Anyways, not the point. Color me surprised with those people. But I love the summer. Okay, I love everything about it. I love the mowing of the lawn, the fresh mown grass, the washing and shining of vehicles, the smell of barbecue, the cold beverages, the summer heat. I'm a sun devil. I love every bit about summer. However, when the twilight of summer is upon us and autumn is about to come, there is, for some people, it's the spooky season, it's the Thanksgiving, it's the cooler temperatures. There's a lot that many people, the return to school, there's things that people love about autumn. But for me, it's the return of the NFL and the football season, baby. So now we are back here with, just like we did last year and the year before that, we are doing our picks and predictions for each week of the NFL for the 2025 season. So, before we even get into the picks, which obviously are right over here, you know, we've already highlighted which ones we're going with. They are the ones in green, obviously. They are the picks that we're choosing for this week. I just want to talk, and I've told this before in previous videos, about week one. Week one, every season, every year, no matter what the matchups are over here, it's always strange. It's always a strange animal because it goes one of two ways. It either goes exactly how everybody predicts. You know, the juggernauts and the powerhouses, the favorites, they all win their games. And there's one upset at best. And usually it's more like the coin flip game. In this case, I would argue like the Ravens-Bills game is more of a coin flip. Some people are arguing the Lions-Packers is a coin flip. You know what I mean? So these 50-50 games, sure. But week one can go that way. And it has in the past. Or it's absolute chaos and there's like 9 upsets. Not like 3 or 4. No. There's like 9 to 10 upsets. And all of a sudden, teams like the Browns, the Panthers, the Jets, they all seemingly win. And they don't just win by like a field goal down to the last quarter. No. The game's over by the third quarter. You know, like they're dominating. They're scoring 36 points on the field. And it's like, whoa, what happened here? The argument of why this is that some teams take the first 2 weeks to almost, even though we have practice and exhibitions and blah, 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 when the season officially starts, it's where teams are shaking off the rust and or trying to find their rhythm, right? So it could go one of two ways. Now, for this week, personally, I went with 3 upsets. What, in my mind, 3 upsets. And look no further. Let's just get right into it. Tonight's game. Thursday night football. I wonder who I'm picking. Right? Of course, I'm going with my Cowboys over the defending Eagles champions. Now, some people will argue this is all based on going with the heart. Right? Okay. Sorta, but not really. And I'll tell you why. I recognize it's an upset. And I recognize that it will be a hard-won battle if the Cowboys manage to win this. I'm saying that it seems to me that lately, in the last 3 or 4 seasons, the champions seem to come out and be that team that takes the first 2 weeks to shake off the rust. They don't ever seem to come out swinging like the juggernaut, like we won the Super Bowl, so we are the dominating force in the NFL starting off next season. I haven't noticed that happening in the last 3 or 4 years. And that being the case, what do they have to prove? They just won the Super Bowl. You know, if week 1, week 2 doesn't go so well, they can bounce back. You know what I mean? It's almost like they're so relaxed, while any team going up against the defending champions wants that merit, wants that pedigree, wants every sports commentator and radio host to shut their damn mouths. We just beat the defending champions week 1. Look out for us. We're not playing around. The opposing team always has something more to prove, while the defending champions, not as much, I would argue. So in this case, the Cowboys have made some, one big major change, the last week and stuff like that. So we're just going to have to see what happens. We're going to have to see what the synergy's like. We're going to have to see if the Eagles have come out to play. And same with the Cowboys. It depends. Week 1, as I said, is very interesting. This is my upset pick. I recognize it's an upset, but I would feel like, really? I don't have faith. Because if I don't have faith in my Cowboys in Week 1, do I have faith in them for the rest of the season at all? And this is their opportunity right here, first game of the year, to prove that, no, they're a contender. I'm just saying, they might have a little bit more to prove than the Eagles do here tonight in tonight's game. So, that being said, that's one of the in my mind, three upsets that I picked. Going down the list, of course, we're going Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Bengals. Those were pretty obvious picks over the Chargers, Falcons, and Browns, respectively. Though I did hesitate. I thought I might pick a fourth upset and take the Browns. I thought about it for a little bit there. I thought about it the last couple of days, and I just said, no, you know what? I'm going to go with the Bengals. Orange versus orange. Usually the Bengals come out on top. Then we go with the Dolphins over the Colts, though I know that some people are actually going with the Colts over the Dolphins. I don't know if that's much of a coin flip game. I'm one of the people, I'm a sports fan in the sense of I don't sit there and watch the draft and watch college ball and spend all the time waiting for the analytics the 3 weeks before the season, watching the practice games and stuff. No. I wait for the first couple of weeks of the official season to sort of lay down who I think is doing well, who's playing well, who's got the right synergy and the right rhythm, and that's how I base my picks. I'm not one of the people like Moneyball who goes down all the lines, knows every player name, knows every stat. You know what I mean? I'm much more of a casual fan than that, but we'll have to wait and see what the Dolphins can pull off. Then we have the Patriots over the Raiders, which neither team is... If anything, that's kind of a coin flip because we have a bad team versus a worse team, and I'll let you decide which is which, but I'm going with the Patriots. Then we have my two other upset picks. We have the Saints over the Cardinals, which everyone's saying I'm crazy, and maybe I am. But everyone's saying I'm crazy for this one because New Orleans hasn't been able to decide. They've been wishy-washy on who's going to be their quarterback, who's going to be their starting line and stuff like that, while the Cardinals are more put together. I would argue that that doesn't mean that the Saints are going to, be dog shit. I would make the argument that they, people seem to think because they can't decide on one guy that they're all mediocre and they can't decide the best of the worst. Why can't it be the opposite? Why can't it be, okay, we have some really good talent and I don't know which one to pick? Everyone looks at it in a negative way when you can't make a decision, when it could be they have some really great young talent and they just can't decide which one should have the opportunity, first chomp at the bit sort of idea, right? So, as I said, I think the Saints, they're going to be a little wishy-washy. But I don't have that much faith in Arizona either. So I'm going with the Saints as just a fun upset in the sort of the middle of the week sort of game to sort of just see what they can do. Same with the Jets over the Steelers. I just like the idea of the Jets with the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. And I just like the idea here of... it was actually my brother who sold me on this one because he's, of course, also in picks and predictions. And he sort of sold me on picking the Jets in Week 1. So I'll give credit where credit is due, and that ended up being my third upset. The rest of them, once again, I don't actively go for, okay, I want to pick 2 or 3 upsets per week. Though I will say I hate picking all the favorites every week because very, very rarely do 16 games go down and everything goes as it should. Quote unquote should. So, but this is why they play the game, right? So I hate picking all favorites, but I don't actively make sure, okay, I need a quota of upsets. It just ends up working out that way. As I said, nearly picked Cleveland, but went with the Bengals. Now, then we go down the list of some obvious ones. Commanders over Giants. Pretty obvious there. Jaguars over Panthers. If Jaguars were facing somebody different, might be a little bit different here, but Panthers are kind of, below the screen level right now until they can prove otherwise. Maybe they'll shock us all here in Week 1. Who knows? Broncos over Titans. Pretty obvious. 49ers over Seahawks. I'm happy with this pick. I think it's a pretty obvious pick, but it's not so 99-1. As far as I'm concerned, I still think that the Seahawks might surprise a lot of people this season, and once again, they're not a terrible team by any stretch. It's just that the 49ers are still looking quite strong and stuff like that, and it's hard to bet against them in the first few weeks, you know what I mean? Now, Packers versus Lions. I had no question in my mind when I heard that matchup. I immediately said Detroit. I said Detroit right away. Had nothing to do with the fact I was watching Beverly Hills Cop at the time. But I instantly, when I was sitting there and they was like, oh yeah, it's going to be Packers-Lions, first game, I went Lions. Immediately. Because while the Packers might be a strong team, the Lions, everyone only remembers the fact that they sort of flubbed and screwed up, very reminiscent of my Cowboys, very powerful in the regular season and sort of screwed up in the playoffs. As a Cowboys fan, I can absolutely relate to the Lions fans. The Lions were a dominating force last season. They screwed up in the playoffs, but this isn't the playoffs. This is regular season. This is next year, and no one has told me that they lost like their 3 main guys or anything like that. I haven't heard any news that the Lions, jumped ship and half the crew's gone or anything like that. So why would I assume that the Lions will not come out and be a powerhouse like they were last season? There's nothing on paper that I've heard anyways that's proven otherwise. So Lions was the obvious choice. That's my argument there. Rams obviously over the Texans. While the Rams are not exactly a top 5 contender, or at least I don't consider them to be a top 5 team, Texans are certainly nowhere near the top 5. So once again, it's one of those, okay, who's better, who's worse, right? And of course, Rams being my second team, of course, I got a little bit of a, I got betting a little bit with the heart on that one, and I'm going with the Rams. Then the big matchup, we'll just do Vikings over Bears. Pretty obvious there, unless the Vikings haven't shaken the rust off and the Bears come out swinging. I don't suspect the Vikings to have much trouble defeating the Bears. The big coin flip in week 1 is Ravens-Bills, I would argue. This is probably the closest matchup for week 1. It's a 50-50 coin flip. It depends on who shows up. Because Lamar Jackson sort of reminds me of Dak Prescott in the sense of when he's on fire. Dak has put up numbers season after season to prove he is a contender for one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but it's the consistency that's the problem. Lamar Jackson has the exact same issue as far as I'm concerned. Now, once again, a quarterback isn't the be-all and end-all that makes the team, but if the quarterback is off, generally the whole team suffers. So, as a result, it depends on... The Bills are generally more consistent, but if the Ravens are on, and specifically Lamar Jackson's got, a torch under his ass, I give it to the Ravens. I still think that this is going to be a, at best, 2-possession, 1-possession game final score. I'm thinking like maybe a touchdown to 10 points at most will be the differential. But I'm going to give it to the Ravens. Won't be surprised if the Bills are the ones who come out swinging. But this is the coin flip game. I want to know specifically, the rest of them I'm pretty confident in, but I want to know what you guys think. Are you going to go with the Bills or the Ravens for kickoff? That's my question. So, with that being said, those are the picks and the predictions for week 1 of the NFL. Hope you guys enjoy a great football season. I'm hoping it's going to be a good season for my Cowboys, but we'll have to wait and see, of course, any given Sunday, as they say. And, looking forward to tonight's game and stuff like that. Hopefully, even if the Eagles do end up winning, which is the more likelihood. Let's be real. Let's be realistic. I just hope they don't get absolutely trounced. If they're going to win, I want the Cowboys to show up and really give them a run for their money so that people are like, okay, all right, they lost, but, it was down to the 4th quarter. I don't want the game to be over before the fat lady sings, right? So, anyways, that's it from me, guys. Hopefully you also all enjoy the games for week 1. I certainly am looking forward to them. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys back here for next week, week number 2, the NFL picks and predictions. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. Have a good one. See you next time.